Okay, now before we get to tonight's case, please take a moment to see if you're subscribed. Please leave it a like if you don't mind, and a comment. Thank you. Alright, so tonight we are headed on over to Montana. Shout out to all my friends in Montana. I'm not sure if we've been to Montana yet. We might have been. We've been to a lot of places, but too many for me to remember. So, this case took place in the year 2013, and it is the case of Cody Johnson and Jordan Graham. Jordan is a female. I know with the name Jordan, it's hard to tell. So, this is a solved case, but at least as far as I'm concerned, I don't think we have the full picture. So, if you could, at the end of the video, please let me know what you think could have really happened here. Alright, enough said. Let's start with some background on Cody Johnson. He was born on April 8th, 1988 in San Jose, California. He was raised by his mother. In 2002, they moved to Kalispell, Montana. And this was not far from Glacier National Park, which is a huge, beautiful park. It is 1,500 square miles in size, with lots of mountains to climb and ravines and you name it, you know. Very, very nice if you're a nature lover. And Cody came to love nature, love the outdoors, and he liked to spend a lot of time at Glacier National Park doing things like hiking. He was also very interested in cars. He liked to fix them, he liked to race them, and most of all, he loved talking about cars. He was a very outgoing guy. He had lots of friends, and a lot of his friends were also interested in cars, which makes sense. So they would sit around talking about cars and going for rides in cars and you name it. You get the idea. Now, in his adulthood, he got a job working for a company called Nomad Communications in Kalispell, Montana, where he lived. And he really liked the job, partly because not only did his uncle work there, but his best friend was his boss. His name was Cameron. And they got along really well. And it must be nice to go to work every day where you have your uncle and your friend, and, you know, I think that would be good. It was a good situation for him. So, he always told his friends that someday, in the not-so-distant future, he would like to settle down with a woman and have some kids, you know. And he hoped for a church-going girl, for whatever reason. He himself wasn't overly religious, but he was somewhat religious. So, on Halloween in the year 2011, he met a girl who seemed to be absolutely what he was looking for, like the perfect girlfriend. Her name was Jordan Graham, and she was also dreamed of having a family and settling down. She told her friends, quote, "I want to meet a nice guy, get married. I want to have kids, and I want to be a stay-at-home mom and just have my family," end quote. After she graduated from high school, she worked as a nanny and also at a daycare center with little children. When she met Cody, she liked him a lot, but not as much as he liked her. She was never affectionate in public with him, and everyone around them noticed that she didn't seem overly into him. Like, it seemed like she liked him, but not like she wasn't head over heels as he was. But nonetheless, they stayed together. Cody started attending church every week with Jordan, and he met all of her friends at church, and he instantly got along with them, and they became his friends. Everyone liked him, and he fit in with everybody. And 1 year later, he proposed to her. That was in December of 2012. And she said yes, which really surprised her friends because they never thought that she would say yes. Now, due to her religiousness, she did not believe in premarital sex. And Cody was okay with that, and he agreed to wait. So, as the wedding approached, she was excited about planning the actual wedding, finding the place, looking for a dress. It was such a great time for her. They hired a songwriter to write them a special song for their wedding, a song that they would dance to at the wedding. And here are some of the lyrics to the song. "Everyone wants a safe place to fall. You helped me to climb higher for a better view. You never let me go." So, they also bought a house that they would move into right after the wedding. But then as the wedding got closer and closer, Jordan was starting to get extremely nervous. Like, she was happy to have a wedding, but she didn't want to be married, Interesting, right? The thing was, she was extremely, extremely afraid of consummating the marriage. And, she spoke with her friends, but they figured she would, get over it. The day of the wedding came. It was June 29th, 2013. And at that time, Jordan was 21, going on 22. And Cody was 25. Once the wedding got going, Jordan seemed to loosen up, and she seemed like she was having a good time. And Cody, he was having the best day of his entire life. He told that to his friends, that was the best day of his life so far. And he was so happy that he felt high. When the wedding was over, they stayed at a hotel for just one night. Like, they didn't have the type of honeymoon that most people have. They didn't go anywhere, but they had a week off from their jobs. They went to a hotel for one night, and then they spent the following week decorating their brand new house. The final day of their week off was a Sunday. That was July 7th, 2013, and in the morning they went to church as they normally would on a Sunday. Then they spent some time at the lake. That evening they went with friends to Dairy Queen for dinner. And then the next few hours late, Cameron, his boss and friend, started to wonder, started to worry, tried to contact him, but didn't get any answer. So Cameron went over to his house to look for him, and there was no answer. So he broke in somehow, looked around, and he found Cody's phone in the garage. Now, nobody leaves their house without their phone these days. Okay, it was 2013, but still, nobody leaves without their phone. So he started calling around to more people, friends, family. Does anyone know where Cody could be? Nobody knew, and no one was really getting a hold of Jordan either. So it was so out of character for Cody that Cameron reported him missing to the police. And the police were very, very curious as to why Cameron was reporting it and Jordan wasn't reporting it. I mean, it was her husband. Like, what was going on? Meanwhile, that same day, Jordan texted her friend, asking the friend if she had seen Cody. Jordan said that the night before, Cody had been on the phone with someone, and then he had abruptly left home without telling her anything, but he had texted her that he was going out with some friends, and she saw the car driving away, and he was in a car with some people she had never seen before. But Cody had said that they were out of town friends who were also into cars. So she assumed that they were just going for a typical, car ride around, and that they would be back in a few hours, but they never came back. So she's asking a friend if they had seen Cody. Well, the friend had not seen Cody. Friends and family all came over to Cody and Jordan's house to brainstorm where he could be, where they should look, what could have happened. And they said that Jordan was very quiet. She really wasn't getting involved. She wasn't giving any helpful ideas. And then at one point, she stood up and threw her wedding ring across the room angrily. So it seemed like unusual behavior. Now, the police were already starting to look for him. They had put up flyers. They were interviewing people. And of course, they interviewed Jordan. And she told them the same story that she had told to her friend. And she said that the reason why she did not report him missing was because she was afraid that he would be mad at her if she had involved the police. And so the police went ahead and got a hold of Cody's phone records to try to find out who he had spoken to on the phone just before he had supposedly left in the car with these friends. And they found one call that could possibly be the one. It was a friend of his, and they contacted him, and he said he doesn't know anything about all this. He did speak on the phone to Cody, but it was about a tool that he had borrowed from Cody, and he had lost it, but now he had found it. Just a completely unrelated conversation. Plus, this guy was at the hospital that night because his wife was having a baby. So, he was cleared. He had nothing to do with it. On July 10th, Cody was still missing, and Jordan received an email from My name is Tony. There is no bother looking for Cody anymore. He is gone. I saw your post on Twitter and thought I would email you. He has come with some buddies and met up with me on Sunday night in Columbia Falls. He was saying he needed to be with his buddies for a bit and take them for a joyride. 3 of the guys came back saying that they had gone for a ride in the woods, and they are positive he fell and he is dead, Jordan. I don't know who the guys were, but they took off. So call off the missing persons report. Cody is gone, for sure. Signed, Tony. So she received this email, and she shared it with a friend of hers, and according to the friend, Jordan was just like, here's this email I got. Oh, like she was unmoved. Like she wasn't freaking out, like most of us would be if we had received such an email. And the friend said to her, you have to bring this to the police. So she did. She brought it to the police and she showed it to them. And they said, well, do you know anyone who this could possibly be? She said that Cody works with someone named Tony. Maybe it's him. But it wasn't him. They checked him out, and he did not have an email address like that one, and he knew nothing about this. But anyway, the police figured they would kind of follow the information in the email anyway. They were going to check into the idea that he had fallen during a hike. So, of course, they had to check out Glacier National Park, but that is easier said than done. Looking for somebody who might have fallen there is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Now, of course, they were going to search the IP address on this email, but that was going to take a little while, so they got started on the search. And Jordan and her friends and family also went out to search as well. People said that during the search, Jordan was just once again very flat, very unemotional about it, very quiet. Until one point, while she was driving around Glacier National Park, she stopped on a secluded stretch of road that was leading up to a mountain overlook, and she told her friends and family that she, quote, just had a feeling, end quote, about that location. She just had a feeling. This is where he must be. Now, this section was known as the Loop, and it is a very, very dangerous 200-foot cliff which overlooks a ravine. It is very, very steep and treacherous and filled with rocks. But Jordan hopped over the jagged rocks right up to the edge, and she looked down, and she yelled out that 200 feet down at the bottom, she was sure that she could see Cody. And later, when people would ask her, how did you know that it would be this exact spot? She said because he had always said that, quote, it was a place he wanted to see before he died, end quote. So now the police had to get down there to take a look, because you could tell it was probably a body, but nobody could tell who it was from that distance. And there was water down there as well. So the body was in some water. Firstly, they had been told by one of her friends that Jordan had texted her the day after the wedding, and she had, quote, totally had a meltdown, end quote, and she was having second thoughts about the marriage. She texted that she was wondering, quote, what the heck I just did this all for, end quote. Apparently, Jordan had refused to consummate the marriage that night. She had lied to Cody, saying that it was her time of the month. But there was only so long that she could keep up with that lie, of course. She had told her friend that the thought of having sex with her husband made her physically ill and sent her into a panic. Jordan believed that Cody was going to want her to do all sorts of unusual things in the bedroom for some reason, and she was extremely afraid. And the friend told her, just talk to him, talk it out, work it out, it'll be okay. But Jordan said, quote, I feel like it's my job to make him happy even if I'm miserable, end quote. This same friend also received a text from Jordan on the same night when Cody went missing. And Jordan had said to her, quote, oh well, I'm going to talk to him, but dead serious, if you don't hear from me at all again tonight, something happened, end quote. And then another thing that the police found out by this point was that the IP address of the email from that guy, Tony, belonged to the computer in the home of Jordan's parents. And it wasn't sent by her parents, it was sent by her. So with all this information, Jordan confessed that she was responsible for Cody's death. She told the police that after the wedding, she was extremely unhappy, and partly due to her religious upbringing, she was extremely terrified of the prospect of having sex with her new husband. She said that on the evening of July 7th, she had finally decided that she was going to talk to Cody about her feelings, and so they went over to Glacier National Park and they headed over to this section, the loop, the section that we talked about. They climbed over a retaining wall, then they climbed down a rocky, steep slope to the edge of a cliff overlooking a ravine 200 feet below. And she said that she told Cody that she was not as happy as she expected to be as a newlywed. They started arguing, and then he grabbed her and she had pulled him off of her, and then she pushed him and he fell over the cliff. She said, quote, I wasn't thinking about where we were, I just pushed. He went to grab my arm and my jacket and I said, no. I said, I'm not going to let this happen. This time I'm going to defend myself. So I let go and I pushed and he went over, and then I took off and went home. At that point, she said that she drove home about an hour away to her house. She did not, obviously, tell anyone or seek any help. She had texted with a few friends on the way home, but did not mention anything about what had happened. She said, quote, at that moment, I was so scared I didn't know what to do. So she was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and for lying to investigators. But she accepted a plea deal, which brought it down to second-degree murder, and she was given 30 years in prison. She did try to appeal it in 2015, arguing that the sentence was excessive, but her sentence was ultimately not reduced, and she remains in prison to this day. And that is the case. So what are your thoughts? I will tell you some of mine. First of all, rest in peace to Cody, and my heart goes out to his family and friends. It is so sad how happy he was, how in love he was. And this is how it turned out. 8 days after his wedding, which was the happiest day of his entire life, he thought he was with the woman of his dreams. He was going to settle down and have a family, and she pushed him over a cliff. So, my main question is this: what really happened? Her story does not sound like the full truth. Yes, she admitted to having done it, but I don't think she told us what really went on, because who goes on a hike in order to talk about their feelings? And if that is what you were going to do, why not stop in a nice grassy area and have a seat, or sit by a little river or something, Why climb over a retaining wall and out onto a cliff, a dangerous cliff, and then have a heart-to-heart conversation about your fears about marriage? Why would that be how it would happen? That just does not make a lot of sense. Plus, if that is how it happened, and then she kind of shoved him without thinking, she would be upset, right? If this was not planned out, she would be like, what did I just do? I mean, I'm imagining myself, if that ever happened, God forbid, I would run out of there in a major panic and be trying to get help immediately. But okay, even if she was thinking, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble, let me not say anything to anybody, and maybe no one will ever know, okay, maybe that was how she thought, but at least she would appear nervous, unusual, so, you would see something about her. She wouldn't just be stoic and quiet like everyone was saying, It just does not really sound right to me. That's why I'm asking you guys, what do you think about that story? Does that make sense? Or did she plan it out? Did she allow her fear of sex get to the point where she was like, I gotta get rid of him? Now here's the thing. Next to his body, they found what they believed to be a black blindfold laying in the water next to him. Now, they couldn't check it for DNA or anything because it was soaked. But there is the theory that she had promised him sex that evening in some kind of a interesting way. I don't know exactly what, nobody knows. And she had him blindfolded and then just walked him right over the cliff with the blindfold. That is a theory. I don't know if that's true, I mean, I'm thinking the blindfold could have just been some rag that just fallen down there. I don't know. but it doesn't make sense that they had gone to all the effort to get to the edge of that cliff and then have that conversation. You know what I mean? So then, the next thing to ask is, can we blame her religious upbringing for what happened? And I'm gonna say no. You could blame her religious upbringing for the fact that she was afraid of sex, okay? So something went wrong in her mind in listening to all of this about how it's such a sin having sex before marriage, and she just translated that to mean that sex is a sin, it's a terrible thing. And she had all these horrible thoughts about it, and you can kind of see how she could have thought that, If you hear it enough from a young age, maybe it becomes a pathological fear. But having a fear of sex does not mean that you kill somebody so you don't have to have sex with them. That is not how it works. You either don't get married, or you get therapy. You talk it out with the person. There were so many things that she should have done differently. First of all, she didn't really love him. That's what everyone was saying. She just wanted to be married. And that's not a good enough reason to marry somebody to begin with. But she did it. And then she had this horrible fear about consummating the marriage. Well, she should have just told him. And then they should have taken it from there. They could have gone together for therapy. They could have gone to the church for some kind of therapy. Anything would have been better than this. In fact, she could have just said to him, you know what? Let's get it annulled. I made a huge mistake.